With the second term of Donald Trump, relations between the United States and Canada became more strained than ever before. The catalyst for this tension was Trump himself, who from the first days of his presidency applied pressure on Canada through economic threats, including the imposition of tariffs and potential damage to its economy. Additionally, Trump made statements suggesting that Canada should become the 51st state of the United States, even hinting at a possible annexation of Canadian territory. In this video, we will discuss what might happen if the United States were to annex Canada and explore the historical context of American ambitions toward Canadian land. Historical context of American interest in Canada. The idea of annexing Canada has existed for centuries. Even during the American War of Independence, there were attempts to take control of Canadian land. In one campaign, American forces marched toward Quebec but were ultimately repelled by the British. The founding fathers of the United States initially planned to include Canadian territories in their new nation, but in the end, only 13 colonies successfully gained independence. Interestingly, many American loyalists who supported the British Crown fled to Canada after the Revolution, further solidifying its separation from the United States. Another attempt to take Canada occurred in the War of 1812, once again involving conflict between British and American forces. The fighting was intense, and in one notable event, the city of York, now known as Toronto, was burned. However, Canada remained unconquered, and the war ultimately ended in a status quo. Throughout the 19th century, border disputes between the two nations continued. The final delineation of the border was only established in the early 20th century. Despite these tensions, economic cooperation between the United States and Canada grew, with trade agreements fostering closer ties. However, some Canadians feared economic dependency on their powerful southern neighbor. There are several ways an annexation of Canada could occur, but each presents significant challenges. First of all, a military annexation of Canada would not be an easy task, even for the United States. The Canadian population, currently around 40 million people, is largely opposed to such an idea and would likely resist. The vast and rugged geography of Canada, with its forests, lakes, and Arctic tundra, would make military control extremely difficult. Even if the United States were able to occupy key cities, it could face a prolonged guerrilla-style resistance. The reaction of NATO is also uncertain, as both Canada and the United States are members of the alliance. Other global powers, such as China, might take advantage of the situation and offer support to Canadian resistance forces, further complicating matters for the United States. Secondly, it is economic pressure. If Trump were determined to push for annexation, economic tactics might be more effective than military force. A trade war between the two nations could significantly weaken Canada's economy. The country relies heavily on trade with the United States, with approximately 71% of its exports and 51% of its imports connected to the American market. If the US imposed harsh tariffs, Canada's economy could face severe challenges, potentially forcing it to consider unfavorable agreements. And thirdly, it is referendum strategy. A political strategy involving a referendum on annexation could also be considered, though it is highly unlikely to succeed. Public opinion surveys indicate that the majority of Canadians do not want to become part of the United States. In fact, conflicts with Trump have only strengthened national support for the Canadian government. Potential consequences of annexation. If, hypothetically, the United States were to annex Canada, there would be both benefits and drawbacks. Economic and strategic benefits. The United States would gain access to Canada's vast natural resources, including valuable rare earth metals. A larger population and expanded territory could strengthen the U.S. economy. Control over Arctic territories would enhance America's strategic position against rivals like Russia and China. Political and diplomatic risks. Annexation would disrupt international relations and could lead to a loss of key allies. It could set a dangerous precedent, making other countries wary of U.S. actions. Within the U.S., the inclusion of Canada as a state could shift electoral dynamics. Canada's population leans politically left, meaning its integration could give long-term advantages to the Democratic Party, making it harder for Republicans to win future elections. Conclusion: while annexing Canada could provide economic and strategic advantages to the United States, it would also carry severe diplomatic consequences. The loss of global trust, potential military conflicts, and internal political shifts make it an extremely risky move. Historically, the idea of incorporating Canada into the United States has been revisited multiple times, but it has never come to fruition. Given current geopolitical realities, such an event remains highly improbable. Nonetheless, speculation around this topic continues, making it an interesting discussion point in US-Canada relations.